Hi everyone, it's Sandra and it's the middle of January and I'm out here in my Victoria, British Columbia greenhouse. I thought I'd show you what's going on today. You can see the minimum and maximum and average temperatures in our greenhouse over the last 30 days or so from this sensor push app that we have. So convenient. All of these plants could survive in our garden, but we keep them in the greenhouse to keep them more productive through the winter. First, we are harvesting some lovely cut and come again greens. This is endive, 2 different kinds of kale, more endive, and more kale. This is our first time growing 1,000 head kale, which I hope to use as wraps as well as to put in stir fries. And just more of the same on this side of the greenhouse. Lots of cut and come again greens. One of my favorites, red Russian kale. And this is a new one for us. I'm growing some corn salad. Tiny little plants, but they're starting to come on now. I started all these seedlings at the end of November. We're overwintering my Italian honey fig tree in the greenhouse. It's a dwarf fig tree, so it stays low enough. And the little figlets are starting to form on the branches. Looks like we'll get a rubber crop of figs this year. Next up is pruning these containers with geranium and fuchsia. We probably have about 20 more containers of plants still outside, but we moved these 2 indoors to get a head start on spring by cutting them back hard to encourage stronger branches, a more pleasing shape, and plentiful blooms. It's really hard to cut them when they're still blooming, but it must be done. Tough love for plants. I cut the fuchsias right back to the mother stem. This fuchsia is probably at least 10 years old and has been cut back many times. With my pruning, I look to correct overlapping branches like this, where the branches are starting to rub against each other. So I prune to a bud that's facing in a direction that will give the plant not only a good shape, but will stop the branches from conflicting in their directions. This branch is obviously turning towards the center of the container, totally a wrong direction. So I'm going to prune to this lovely outwardly facing bud right there. Pull this great big long branch. Oop, I might have to pull that from the other direction. There we go. When I prune such lovely, healthy fuchsia growth, I have in the past rooted these up to make new fuchsia plants. But like I keep saying, we are trying to move again this year. So I have no time for that and no room to do it either. Fortunately then, these plants are going to have to be composted. With the fuchsia almost done, note I prune back to some healthy growth when possible to still give the plant some nourishment as it regrows in the spring. But now that it's mostly done, I turn my attention to the geranium that still doesn't know it's winter. So these bits that I'm pruning off the geraniums would make excellent new plants. I've rooted them up, but I've also just stuck them in the ground here in Victoria, just stick them low enough that a couple of nodes are buried and they root up just fine. Just make sure you prune off any existing flowers as well as any flowers that are coming to promote the root growth. But this one's gonna go in the compost. I can just scoop up some of my worm castings that I store nearby to encourage some nice microbe action in the soil. Now that both the fuchsia and the geranium are pruned up, it's time to give them a little bit of nourishment. With this tub complete, it's time to turn my attention to the container right next door. Likewise, it has a fuchsia and a geranium in it, but you know, I do everything from a mobility scooter and a wheelchair because of my multiple sclerosis, and I'm going to leave this one for another day. Pacing myself in the garden is really important. In that way, gardening is always an enjoyable activity and not a chore. It doesn't deplete me, and I still have energy to do other things. It's all about balance. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye for now.